I was born in Struthers, Ohio, in a house, and I was the second child, second of seven. That house had all the modern appliances, had running water and electricity. I lived there until I was about 3 years old. I remember the little girl I played with down the street. Her name was Dodo. And Dodo and I got into a lot of mischief together. My dad always had beehives, and so out behind the garage with the beehives. Well, we took our little sand shovels. We started shoving our shovels into the crack of the beehive there to hear the bees hum. Well, all of a sudden, all the bees came out, and we're screaming. My dad comes out and grabs one in each arm and runs us into the basement. We probably each had a few stings, but we survived it. We didn't have kindergarten at that time. We lived way out in the country in no man's land, and it was time for me to go to school. So my first shock was I had to wear shoes, which didn't suit me very well. I was such a hyperactive, wild kid that I just couldn't imagine sitting in a seat all the time. The teacher walked out of the room for a few minutes, and I jumped out of my seat and was running around doing whatever. And she comes in and catches me, so she sends me to the principal's office, and I got my first paddling. Wasn't my first paddling. I had a few of those before that. I came home from school that day, and my mother says, "Well, how was your first day of school?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going back." That didn't pan out too well. Somehow I managed to get through school, through high school, got married, and had 4 kids, raised them on a dairy farm. Everybody does their share of work. I canned and froze everything we ate. We had not just dairy cattle, we had pigs and chickens, so we had our own meat. Always had a big garden, and I baked a lot. Still love to bake. Like to cook too. Aside from working on that farm, which was a full-time job, in 1978, we sold the farm. We moved to Texas. The first year, I thought, oh man, this is heaven. I don't have all this responsibility. And then after the first year, I thought, man, I got to do something. So my youngest child started into college, and I went to nurses training. Got my LVN license. And they all encouraged me to go get my RN, but I never planned on working anything more than part-time. I loved the patient care part. So I started my nursing in what was McKenna Hospital at the time, which is now Christus. I worked there maybe 3 or 4 years, and my back started giving me trouble. A lot of weight bearings. I did some PRN office work. I enjoyed that. The last one I did was with the pediatrician. He never let me go. 1987, my husband died, and so I was all alone. I was a big walker. That's how I got through. Some days I know I probably walked 15 miles. I was working, so I still had a life. In 1990, I married Bill Shreve. I had met him through the office. His wife had been a patient of ours, and she had passed away. I married him. We did a lot of traveling, enjoyed our life. He insisted I quit my job so I was free to go. So we traveled all over the country, a couple of out of the country, to Europe and down to Mexico, traveling, had a really good life. In 2013, we moved into the Pinnacle. He had cancer, died of lung cancer. He was here for a year, and I'm still here. Don't know why, but I'm still here, still baking. I bring
That's
muffins
really cool.
downstairs probably twice a week. I make banana nut muffins. I never eat them, but I bring 2 dozen muffins down twice a week. Whoever has any overripe bananas, they hang them on my door, and they turn into muffins. That's me. I had 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl. Thought I was never going to get that girl, but I finally did. 5 grandkids, 11 great grandkids, and 1 great granddaughter. But my second husband, Bill Shreve, he had 5 kids. They're kind of scattered all over the country, so I don't see much of them anymore. But I was raised in the Lutheran church, baptized Lutheran, and went to catechism. And after I was married, went to Presbyterian. And then when Bill and I got married, he joined First Protestant. So now I go to chapel. I used to sew every day. I was big into sewing. And I was a big walker. I went on these organized 10K walks. My husband and I'd go on those 10K walks, and we'd walk 10K 3 times in a weekend. Friday evening, we'd walk 10K, Saturday morning and Sunday morning, and then we'd pack up our trailer and we'd go home. I was a big walker, and now I'm on a walker. So it wasn't fair that that's what I got taken away, but that's the way it goes. Did a lot of fishing. Used to love to go fishing in the mountains in Arizona. We'd go up there a lot. We did a lot of hiking. We went to Lake Tahoe. Everybody turned back, but Bill and I and one young couple. We made it to the top, and it was just beautiful. We've been all over. I mean, when my first husband got cancer. And I'm working, and all my patients are dying of cancer. And I finally told the director of nurses, I said, I can't do this anymore. I said, this is hitting too close to home. I see what's ahead for me. And I said, I can't do this anymore. So they put me back on surgical floor. Second husband, Bill, always said, you don't have to do something every day. And I said, I feel like I have to accomplish something every day to pay for the fact that I'm here. And he said, you don't have to accomplish something every day. He had to teach me how to do happy hour. He said, when you do happy hour, you sit down with your drink and a little snack if you want, and you relax. Well, I got my drink and I'm jumping up and I'm going to the kitchen and I'm doing this and then. He said, that is not how you do happy hour. So I finally have learned how to do happy hour. I sit in my chair with my drink. No, I've had a good life. And we were very poor when I was young, and it was hard. But when we kids talked about it afterwards, we thought, those hard years were the best years of our life. Out of 7 siblings, there's still 5 of us living. I've lost my older sister and my brother that was a year younger than me. And he and I were very, very close all our years growing up. But we got into a lot of trouble. I was probably a bad influence on him. We had a house that had a porch roof out from my bedroom window was a porch roof. And so I crawled out the window one day, and down in the rain gutter was a bullet. Well, I didn't know anything about bullets. My dad was not a gun person. It looked like a 22 long, as I remember. Tom and I shared everything. So we decided we're going to share that bullet. So we take it down, we lay it on a rock. I go in the garage, get a hatchet, and wham. Well, of course, that bullet exploded. My mother came out of the house just screaming. Well, we didn't get hurt, but we couldn't hear for a while. That's why I say I was probably a bad influence on. So anyhow, neither one of us wanted to be a burden to our kids. We looked at several different places. What sold us on this, I think, was the continuous care part of it. The balconies was one thing that sold my husband. Several places we looked had no outdoor, and he said, no, we've got to be able to sit outside. You had the opportunity to move to the assisted living, but the residence here is what keeps you here. We have a wonderful staff too. It's like we're a big family. In fact, one of our residents moved away and she was gone a month or maybe 6 weeks, and she came back. She said, there's no place like it. She couldn't imagine herself aging in that place that she went. She said, I had to come back, which is a statement in itself. I'm glad that this was where we lit, because it's the best. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay.